Claims of horrific torture and murder have long plagued the Sri Lankan government. Despite that, successive Australian governments have cultivated a close friendship to try and stem the flow of asylum seekers from the South Asian nation. But the details of the relationship have been a secret until now. Reporter Dylan Welch spent 4 years trying to get evidence of just what the friendship involves. Now he has it.
Tens of thousands of Australians holiday here each year, drawn by a tropical climate and a rich culture. But the island nation of Sri Lanka has a brutal side. For years, Sri Lankans have been taken from the street and tortured by the government. Much of it is carried out by a notorious police unit called the Criminal Investigation Department, or CID. Since mid-2009, the Australian Federal Police has been supplying the CID with equipment.
There are a number of torture methods associated with the CID, including beatings to many parts of the body, sexual torture, including rape, both of men and women, burning, including with cigarettes, and increasingly with hot metal implements, as well as asphyxiation and suspension methods of torture.
Do you have scars elsewhere on your body?
Yeah.
Among the victims of CID torture is Nick. We're protecting his identity because he fears for his family, still in Sri Lanka.
Every time the rope was pulled, the pain was excruciating and the intensity indescribable.
In Sri Lanka, he was a photographer documenting violent repression. Between 2010 and 2012, Nick was abducted 5 times, mostly by the CID. He was blindfolded and terrified.
I felt a burning metal rod pushed into my back in about 6 places, leaving burning wounds. The pain was excruciating.
They repeatedly burned him with cigarettes, often on the same spot.
I was on the brink of death, for they put a gun to my mouth, head, chest and back many times.
He was raped repeatedly. He was also subject to other sexual torture, far too graphic to describe.
The things they did were totally alien to me. While they tortured me, I didn't know if it was night or day.
Nick fled the country in 2012, 3 years after the end of a brutal civil war which prompted a surge in asylum seekers to Australia.
We believe unapologetically in a tough, hardline approach to border security.
The AFP was central to the government's attempts to deal with the influx. In mid-2009, they struck a deal with Sri Lankan police to provide equipment and training to help Sri Lanka disrupt people smuggling networks. In 2011, I asked the AFP just what they gave Sri Lanka police. For 4 years, they delayed and denied my requests. Then, earlier this month, they handed over this 7-page document, which sets out in specific detail just what Australia has been handing over. Across 5 years, the Federal Police have given the CID and other branches of the Sri Lankan Police everything from furniture and office equipment to high-tech intelligence programs such as this. Jade Investigator allows police to easily link photos, video, intelligence reports and other evidence together. Another program given to the CID was IBM's i2 Analyst's Notebook, a powerful tool to visualise networks of people being targeted by a police force. They also handed over 2 machines that extract information held on mobile phones, including deleted emails, texts and location data. The AFP also built or refurbished at least 4 offices in CID's headquarters in Sri Lanka's capital, Colombo.
Over the years, we have worked with many survivors of torture who were tortured in Sri Lanka at the hands of the CID. Their headquarters in Colombo, known as the 4th floor, is a notorious torture facility.
In November 2011, the AFP gave the CID a new white surveillance van. White vans are synonymous in Sri Lanka with torture and kidnapping.
So many tell the same story. How suspects are taken away in unmarked white vans. They are never seen again.
It's become part and parcel of the operations of CID in Colombo in Sri Lanka. And it's got a reputation worldwide for doing this sort of thing, the so-called white van syndrome, where they use white vans to pick people up off the street and then relatives and family would never see those people again.
Both the AFP and the Sri Lankan embassy declined interviews for this story. The AFP said the equipment is supporting legitimate policing, and none of its officers in Sri Lanka have ever raised the issue of torture. Sri Lankan authorities have long denied involvement in human rights abuses. But a series of reports by the UN, NGOs and the British government say otherwise.
Torture has been found to be one of the 2 main causes of death in police custody.
Recorded first-hand witness accounts from 2 young Tamil women who stated
detainees told Human Rights Watch that they were abused at various official...
Introduced themselves as CID officials and took her to the 4th floor of CID headquarters for questioning.
Concerns remain over torture and extrajudicial killings.
The document obtained by 7:30 shows support continues today. The influx of Sri Lankan asylum seekers has slowed. The recently elected Sri Lankan government says it isn't committing human rights abuses. But groups like Sonia Skeetz's Freedom from Torture disagree.
Freedom from Torture can say categorically that torture has continued in Sri Lanka. It is perpetrated by the CID and by other arms of the state in Sri Lanka. It is deeply entrenched in the operating procedures of the CID.
Another young Tamil, Raja, also says he was repeatedly tortured and raped by the CID. His 16-year-old brother was abducted and beaten by the CID 3 weeks ago.
CID's people are not a human. They are killers. They are whole killers.
Nick and Raja have now settled in Australia, but still live with severe trauma caused by their torture. Both want Australia to stop working with the CID.
I have long-term mental scars. This is going to stay with me for a long, long time. I didn't want to leave my country. I love it. But I had to run away to save myself.
Dylan Welch with that exclusive report.